We're talking about disciplining your children. So from today, if you're in Wales, so whether you live there or you're visiting Wales, it is now illegal to use any form of corporal punishment on your children, including smacking. Now, the same rules already apply in Scotland. So this comes into effect, as I said, from today. It's always such a contentious issue, smacking, isn't it? And we've discussed it many times on this show, but banning it, making it illegal, what do you think, Carl?
Oh, it's really hard because I'm definitely not saying you should be allowed to smack your children. I think it's absolutely always been, in my case, when the boys were little, I mean, Shane's 33 now, in my case, it was always last resort. And unfortunately, I agree, it was normally when I just lost my temper and it was never like a wallop. They might say different. But then I never, ever smacked Kira, ever, because she never needed to be. I don't know, it's so difficult because A, how are they going to police that? B, it's kind of accusing all parents of almost being abusive, like. So I'm on the fence with it, I really am. You know, if I saw somebody really hitting their child and I thought that child definitely isn't doing anything that deserved to warrant that, I would be worried and probably report it. But we've all had those moments, we've talked about them with our kids, where it's like, you know, and whatever you do, well, you're going on the naughty.
It's almost like...
What about teenagers who turn around and go, well, if you don't let me play my, you know, PlayStation or whatever they've got, I'm going to phone the police and tell them you smacked me. I mean, they're not
It's
idiots.
kind of like demonising, Jane, isn't it? To me, it's a bit like demonising. I don't agree. Well, I didn't smack Jack. I can count on, like, 3 fingers when I did. And I know, like you, I'd lost my temper and I didn't like it. And I didn't ever set out. I used different forms of punishment.
I didn't like it.
I was smacked as a child. And whenever I say that these days, it sounds horrific to a lot of people, even the word saying, like, well, I got smacked as a child, but I did. But it was a slap on the back of the legs. My mum used to flick me with a tea towel, you know, I remember chasing me around the kitchen table. So I don't feel scarred by it, changed by it. You know, I didn't feel like I was an abused child. So there are varying degrees, aren't there? So it's like saying to all parents we're abusive.
Yeah, I think it's a really easy thing in a way for a government to do because it's sort of a bit of it's an easy policy, a bit of virtue signalling. They can just go, right, you know, because no one's going to particularly disagree with it. But it sort of pushes, as you say, onto parents, this kind of demonisation. And I do think, you know, not a week goes by where you don't read some horrendous story of a child being ritually abused within their own home. Does anybody think that this rule is going to stop parents like that being abusive? So the only people it's going to affect are maybe people like you who, you know, at the wit's end just kind of went like that on the... And then you get people in the supermarket. You've got this whole other thing as well. So a friend of mine has an autistic son, and like a lot of children with special educational needs, he has, you know, complete meltdowns in public, and his dad has been taught how to restrain him responsibly, and that was what he did. And somebody reported him to social services. And actually, he said, in the end, it benefited me because when it went through the full process, I was able to say, well, no, this is how I've been taught to do this, and this is me telling you my son needs a statement. It needs to be statemented so that people know this, and I can say, this is my verification for...
It's just like, do you want a parent to end up with a criminal record? Because, you know, their child might have run into the road, they've pulled them back and kind of that knee-jerk reaction where you've, you know, maybe smacked them and said, don't ever do that to me again. If that person was then charged, you know, you have a record for something that was actually not, in your eyes, ever meant to be an abusive act.
And you couldn't categorise that abuse as abusive, is it? Because that's protective, and that's perhaps where this
but it would be
come in.
If you were seen doing that in Wales, that would be illegal, wouldn't it?
And that loophole there is dangerous. I was trying to protect my kid by hurting them. It makes you wonder. And I think back on when I was a kid, those sorts of actions never really did much good for me. I never really thought being, you know, hit was the thing that would deter me. For me, it was always the disappointed parent. The quiet, the sort of, you need to... It was the guilt that was laid on that made it work. But, I mean, I think that I often feel myself saying, oh, we shouldn't be banning things. We've talked about all this on the panel before, when people go out and ban stuff, is that the appropriate move? But I can't see a reason why this could be bad. I just don't think it's a bad thing. I think it can only be a good thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's who decides what level of if you tapped their hand because they were just about to put their hand on a
You see, it says here, ministers in Cardiff said the new law means people will be committing a crime if they smack, hit, slap or shake a child in their care.
How do they police that?
The government said it, quote, wasn't possible to give a set list of what makes up physical punishment. So there you've got that kind of, that grey area.
It's a grey area, yeah. Well, let us know what you think. I mean, we always get a lot of comments and things whenever we talk about smacking on the show. So let us know what you think.